The corridor was unusually quiet. Jungkook had just stepped out of class when someone blocked his way. Josh, leaning casually against the wall, as if he had been waiting. Jungkook stopped. His expression didn't change. "I was looking for you," Josh said, straightening up. Jungkook slipped his hands into his pockets. "You found me," Josh smirked. "I saw you've been spending a lot of time with her." No response. That calm silence irritated him. Josh stepped closer. "Let me make this simple for you," he said, voice lowering. "Stay away from YN." Jungkook finally looked at him properly. "And what if I don't?" Josh let out a short laugh. "You're a junior. Don't forget your place." Jungkook tilted his head slightly. "What place?" The air shifted. Josh's smile faded a little. "You think this is a joke?" "No," Jungkook said quietly. "I think you're wasting our time." Josh's jaw tightened. "I'm serious." "So am I." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Jungkook spoke again, calm, but clear. "I'm not staying away from her." Then, without hesitation, "So stop trying to make me." A beat, silence, and then Josh laughed. Not amused, not impressed, mocking. He grabbed his collar and shoved him back against the wall. "You think you have a choice." He stepped closer, voice filled with ridicule. Jungkook didn't struggle, didn't panic. He just looked at him, calm. That only made Josh angrier. "Are you deaf?" he snapped, pushing him harder. "Or do you think you're special?" Jungkook's voice came out low. "Done," Josh scoffed. "Don't act smart with me." His grip tightened again. "I can make your life miserable here. You won't even know what hit you." For a second, everything went still. Then Jungkook slowly raised his hand and removed Josh's grip from his collar. Not forcefully, just deliberate. Josh frowned slightly. That wasn't the reaction he expected. Jungkook straightened his shirt calmly. Then he looked straight into Josh's eyes. And this time, there was something different. Not playful, not careless, cold. "I hope this isn't too complex for you to grasp." Josh let out a dry laugh. "You really have a death wish, don't you?" Jungkook didn't even blink. "I like her," he said steadily, "and I'm not staying away, unless she tells me to." That made Josh pause for a while. Then he laughed again, louder this time, mocking. You like her. The junior is in love with his senior. You think she'll ever look at you that way?" He stepped closer again, trying to regain control. "She will never." Jungkook's gaze didn't waver. "You're just a kid to her." No reaction. "That's all you'll ever be." Silence. Then Jungkook spoke, quiet, steady. "We'll see." Something about the way he said it made Josh stop. Because this wasn't a junior trying to act brave. There was no fear in his eyes. None, and for the first time, he felt it. This wasn't someone he could scare away. Jungkook stepped past him, but just before leaving, he paused, without turning back. "You should stop while you can." A beat, "Before you embarrass yourself." And then he walked away. Josh stood there, jaw tight, watching him go. But then, his eyes shifted. Someone stood at the end of the corridor. YN still, silent, eyes on empty corridor Jungkook had just left. Before Josh could move, she turned and walked away. The classroom was almost empty. YN stood near her desk, quietly putting her books into her bag. Josh slowly walked toward her. "You heard him, did you?" No response. She continued packing. "Don't mind him." His tone sweet but carrying something dark. "He doesn't understand boundaries." He stepped closer. "But you don't need to worry," he added with a smirk. "I'll show him his place." YN's fingers tightened slightly around her bag, but her face remained calm. She still didn't respond. "I've been telling you. You should be careful around him." That made her look at him. Finally, her expression was unreadable. "Josh," she said quietly but firmly. "Stay out of it." He froze. "I heard everything." She continued. "And I also know he's not the kind of person you're trying to make him out to be." Josh's expression tightened slightly. "He has always been respectful." She added. "He has never crossed a line." A pause. "I know he admires me, and maybe he's confusing it with something more." Her eyes met his, steady. "But that doesn't give you the right to decide what he is." Josh clenched his jaw. "Whatever it is," she picked up her bag. "I'll handle it." A step closer. Not aggressive, but firm. "You don't need to interfere." Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Josh looked away first, embarrassed. For once, he had nothing to say. YN walked past him, without looking back. Jungkook stepped out of the library, his phone still in his hand. The call had gone unanswered. Again, he stared at the screen for a second, then slipped it into his pocket. Something felt off. He started walking down the corridor, slowly, almost absent-mindedly. And then, he saw her. YN walking out of an empty classroom. His step slowed, then stopped. For a moment, it was just her. adjusting her bag, calm, composed, just like always. Then someone stepped out behind her. Josh. Jungkook's eyes shifted, just slightly, but enough. Josh noticed him next. A slow, knowing smirk appeared on his face, but Jungkook didn't react. Josh walked a little too close, not touching, but close enough to make it obvious. Something in Jungkook's chest tightened, quietly. But his face stayed the same, calm. Then her eyes lifted and met his. A second, that's all it took. No smile, no surprise, just a brief pause. She didn't react, didn't say anything. She just kept walking, and after a moment he followed. YN sat still, her eyes fixed on the open book in front of her, but her mind was somewhere else, far away from the words she was supposed to be reading. The page didn't turn. The pen in her hand hadn't moved for a while now, and then a memory surfaced, uninvited, quiet, but impossible to ignore. It was one of those calm evenings, the kind where time slowed down between pages and explanations. Books scattered across the table, a soft silence between them. Jungkook had been unusually quiet that day, not interrupting, not teasing, just watching her. "What do you want to do later?" he asked suddenly. She had looked up. "A career." "Yes," she had thought for a moment, then answered simply. "I want to be a teacher." Jungkook blinked. "A teacher?" She nodded. "I want to make things easier for students, not complicated like it usually is." Her voice had been calm, certain. Jungkook had stared at her for a second, as if memorizing that answer. Then he smiled, that same bright, effortless smile. "Then I'll open a school for you." She had frowned slightly. "What? So you can teach however you want," he said easily. "No restrictions, no pressure." A small pause. "And I'll help you," he added, softer this time. "With everything." She had almost laughed. "Why would you do that?" Jungkook had shrugged, like it was obvious. "Because it's your dream." A pause, then without thinking. "And like that, you'll always stay around me." The way he had said that, not joking, not teasing, just certain. At that time, she hadn't thought much of it. She had brushed it off as one of his usual lines. But now, YN blinked, back in the present. She finally understood why he had said that, and that was exactly why she couldn't. The room felt unusually quiet. Only the soft sound of pages turning filled the space. Jungkook sat across from her, focused on solving the question. YN watched him for a moment, then looked down at her book again. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again, steadying herself. "Jungkook." He looked up immediately. "Yes, Nuna." For a second she didn't speak. Then she closed the book in front of her. "I won't be able to tutor you anymore." Jungkook blinked. "Why?" "My final exams are close," she said calmly. Jungkook didn't react right away. "Ooh," he said quietly. "I need more time to focus on my studies." Jungkook looked at her for a moment, as if trying to understand something beyond her words. But YN didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on her book. Jungkook nodded slowly. "Okay." "Nuna," Jungkook said softly as they walked toward their bicycles. "Who?" YN replied, her eyes still on the path ahead. A small pause. "Is something bothering you?" That made her look up. For a second, she just looked at him, thinking how can he read her this easily. His eyes were soft, just like always. "You look tired," he added quietly. YN held his gaze for a second, then looked away. "I'm fine, Jungkook," she said calmly. "I just want to focus more on my studies." Jungkook nodded slowly. "Don't push yourself too hard." They reached their bicycles. A brief silence settled between them. "Bye," she said. "Bye, Nuna." YN got on her bicycle and rode away. Jungkook stood there for a moment, watching her go. Then he looked down slightly and let out a quiet breath. She sounded normal, but somehow, everything felt different. It was lunch break. YN was walking toward the stairs, flipping through her notes. "Nuna." She stopped, just for a second, then turned. Jungkook stood there, a small smile on his face, like always. Hi." A brief silence. "It's been 2 days. I didn't see you," he said, a little unsure. YN nodded lightly. "Yes, I was busy." "Oh," a small pause. Then, "Actually, there's a question I'm confused about." /N looked at him for a moment. "You can ask your teacher, Jungkook." "I tried," he said softly. "He was busy." YN sighed quietly, not annoyed, just tired. "Show me." She took the notebook from his hand. The solution, quick, clear, her voice calm, patient, but distant. No teasing, no extra words. "Got it?" she asked. Jungkook looked at her, not the notebook, her. She handed it back. "You should focus on your studies." "I am." "Then be consistent with it," she said gently. "Don't rely on me for everything." A pause. It wasn't harsh, but it still hurt. Jungkook smiled anyway. I'm trying. YN nodded. I know, and she meant it. Okay then, bye. She turned to leave. Nuna, she stopped again. Did you eat? He asked, a simple question, familiar. Yes, Jungkook. A small pause. Then she added, softer. You should also have your lunch. Instead of asking questions, you already know how to solve. That was her way, still caring, just carefully. Jungkook smiled faintly, rubbing the back of his neck. Okay, she walked away. Jungkook stood there, watching her go. He didn't follow, didn't call her again. But the smile on his face faded slowly. Jungkook sat on the bench, absent-mindedly spinning his pen. Jimin watched him for a while. You've been quiet. Jungkook exhaled softly. It feels like she's avoiding me. Jimin frowned. Who? Jungkook gave him a look. YN Nuna. Oh. A pause. Jungkook looked down at his hands. After that day, when I dropped her home, he said quietly, it feels like she's distancing herself. Jimin tilted his head slightly. But that's weird. Jungkook looked up. Why? Jimin shrugged. Because the next day, she was looking for you. Jungkook frowned. Yeah, Jimin said casually. Jungkook straightened a little. When? That morning after the rain. Jimin said, she came to check on you, to see if you were okay, after being soaked for that long. What did you say? That you must be in the classroom. A pause. Jungkook's voice lowered. But she didn't come to me. Silence. Jungkook leaned back slowly, thinking, connecting. She came to check on him but didn't meet him. And suddenly, it made sense. Jungkook let out a quiet breath. So she is avoiding me. Not a question. A realization. Jimin looked at him carefully. Maybe she's just busy. Jungkook shook his head lightly. No, a small pause. She's choosing it. She was there. Another pause. She heard me that day. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Jimin tried to lighten the mood. Or maybe she just doesn't like your face. Jungkook gave him a flat look.